So for this deep dive, we're starting in, well, in two vastly different places.
Right, they couldn't be more different. On one hand, you've got the remote, almost surgically manicured isolation of the Isle of Portland in Dorset, England.
And on the other.
The scarred, forgotten cornfields near a town called Vukovar in Croatia.
What connects these 2 points? I mean, they're separated by half a continent and, what, nearly 2 decades of really brutal history.
It's a contract killing, that's the link. We're here to do a kind of forensic examination of the source material, which details this collision between two entirely separate worlds.
Okay, so what are these worlds?
First, you have the high-stakes, gray market world of international arms trafficking. It's run by a man, Harvey Gillot, who built his entire life on silence, on professional anonymity.
And the other world.
That's the raw, relentless pursuit of vengeance by a community that is just consumed by this historical atrocity, this long, bitter memory of betrayal.
So our mission here is to unpack how a single broken deal all the way back during the collapse of Yugoslavia just snowballed into this complex global operation.
Exactly. And this isn't a simple crime story. You've got the professional arms dealer, you've got professional hitmen, you've got multiple agencies within UK law enforcement getting involved.
Intelligence operatives, too.
Oh, absolutely. And then eventually even anti-arms trade activists. They all end up converging on this one single fateful spot.
There's a paradox at the heart of this, isn't there?
Profound one. And it really defines the whole narrative. Harvey Gillot, our arms dealer, he sought survival through obscurity, through maintaining the perfect low profile.
And then the community of Vukovar.
They were the complete opposite. They defined themselves by a long, bitter historical memory of being betrayed. And what the sources really show us is that survival in this highly technical, ruthlessly professional environment, it often hinges not on perfect planning or sophistication.
One on what?
On the sheer absurdity of luck. And, ironically, a dash of that same professional ruthlessness.
Okay, let's start by unpacking the dealer himself, Harvey Gillot. When we say arms dealer, you have to understand, we're not talking about someone selling black market handguns on a street corner.
Not even close. The source material is very, very explicit about his inventory. He traffics in what they call the material of war.
The stuff that actually changes geopolitical balances.
That's right. He is a broker of weapons, and his list is, well, it's vast and it's dangerous. You start at the lower end, of course, small arms, rifles, ammunition, machine guns.
But his operation scales up. Fast.
Very fast. We're talking about mortars, artillery pieces, things that require serious logistical planning to move around the world without anyone noticing.
And then there's the really specialized equipment, the kind of stuff that's highly prized in modern conflicts.
Exactly. Specialized man-portable missiles. These are the weapons designed to, take out armored vehicles or flatten buildings or even target low-flying aircraft.
So beyond the explosive hardware, he's also dealing in sensitive encrypted communications equipment.
Yes, and this really shows the scale of his ambition. The heaviest items on his manifest. Main battle tanks.
Main battle tank.
Main battle tanks. I mean, just think about the logistics. Think about what it takes to move something like a T-72 or personnel carriers across international borders without leaving a paper trail.
It's mind-boggling.
Sure.
So Gillot is basically a global procurement manager for anyone with the cash. Governments, rebels.
Anyone. And he manages to do it all while practicing what the source calls the art of anonymity.
I want to focus on that phrase, the art of anonymity.
Yeah.
How does a man who moves tanks and Sagar missiles stay invisible?
It's a cultivated discipline. His profile is extremely low, almost monastic. We're told, for example, that he completely avoids drinking alcohol.
And his reasoning for that?
It's purely clinical. The telephone could ring at any hour, day or night, bringing news from a war zone, a deal collapsing, a shipment compromised, maybe casualties from his merchandise, and he has to be instantly sharp, instantly ready to make a critical million-dollar decision.
That need for readiness, for total discretion? That wasn't something he just came up with, was it? He learned that from someone.
He inherited it from his mentor, a man named Solly Lieberman.
Tell us about him.
Solly Lieberman was a crucial figure in the history of the gray market. He operated from the 1920s right up until he died in 1990. And Solly, he instilled the foundational rules of the trade in Gillot. Primarily discretion and minimizing the paper trail.
Success through silence.
That's the lesson. When Gillot cleared out Solly's office after he died, he found paper trails for, uniforms, boots, optics, the minor stuff. But for what he called the choice stuff, the really destructive, high-value arms, there was nothing. Not a trace. That silence was the key to survival.
So if you need that level of isolation, that kind of discretion, where do you choose to live? A broker of main battle tanks doesn't just get a flat in London.
No, he settles far, far away from the intelligence hubs, far from major law enforcement agencies. He chooses the Isle of Portland, in Dorset, at a house called Lulworth View.
It's a calculated decision then.
100%. Portland offers perfect geographical isolation. It's remote. But it's also a place where he can, in his own way, savor his own importance. He sees himself as this vital cog in the global machine, and this remote setting lets him feel important, comfortable.
But the source notes something else, doesn't it? That despite all the power and comfort, he's ultimately a man alone.
Isolation just goes with the territory. It's the price of moving the material of war.
And that isolation has clearly taken a huge toll on his personal life. He's married to a woman named Josie. They have a 15-year-old daughter, Fiona, but the marriage is, well, it's deeply fractured.
You see that split so clearly when Josie talks about his mentor. She calls Solly Lieberman a poisonous creature. She knew exactly where the money came from, and she despised it.
That domestic tension is key because it really sets the stage for his first real security crisis.
And this is the profound irony of it all. Here is a man who deals in global crises, who can literally influence the death toll in multiple wars, and his sense of security is shattered not by a professional threat,
But by what?
by the most mundane, almost farcical domestic suspicion.
He finds a heavy, expensive hotel robe.
Yeah, one he nicked from the Berlin Marriott, which tells you something about his lifestyle.
He finds it damp in the spare bathroom.
And that one detail, the damp robe, it triggers this catastrophic internal crisis. He instantly concludes that his wife, Josie, is cheating on him with the gardener, Nigel.
Wow. Think about that disconnect for a moment. He's got a contract out on his life from a community he betrayed years ago. That's the external threat.
And at the same time, he's consumed by this intensely personal, internal humiliation over the possibility that his wife is shagging the gardener, Nigel.
It almost suggests a total lack of perspective. He can manage the geopolitical movement of heavy armor, but he loses his composure over a domestic trifle.
Exactly. It shows that even a man who operates at his level, who thinks he's immune to normal human weakness, is just as easily destabilized by marital suspicion as he is by a Dragunov sniper rifle.
And that simultaneous crisis, personal and professional, is what drives him right into the path of the coming storm.
Let's pivot now from Gillot's manicured paranoia in Dorset to the historical epicenter of this threat, Vukovar, Croatia.
The source describes it as a flashpoint from 19 years earlier, a place of, I think the quote is, mud, misery, and murder that was swiftly forgotten by Western media.
The context is absolutely crucial here. We're in the early 1990s during the breakup of Yugoslavia. The UN imposes an arms embargo on all the warring parties. Slovenia, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia.
But that doesn't bring peace.
Not at all. Instead, it creates this enormous vacuum, which translates into a feeding frenzy for arms brokers like Gillot. Everyone on the ground, especially villagers just trying to defend themselves, they desperately needed weapons.
And in this case, they needed them to defend against the Serbian paramilitary groups, the Setniks.
Precisely. And the desperation of the villagers in Vukovar is it's heartbreakingly detailed in the sources. They were led by the village teacher, a man named Zoran, and they pulled everything they had.
This wasn't just, digging into their savings. This was generational wealth.
We're talking jewelry, family ornaments, heirlooms, cash, insurance policies, and critically house deeds. They handed all of this over in a communal sacrifice to buy the weapons they believed would save their lives.
And their need was very, very specific. They were defending a road, right?
Yes, the Cornfield Road, the Kukuruzny put. It was their vital, fragile lifeline in and out of the siege. To keep it open, they needed serious firepower. So they paid for the 9K-11 Malyutka anti-tank missile.
The famous Sagar missile, as it's known by NATO.
They called it the Little Baby. It was chosen specifically because their local expert, a man named Tomislav, believed those missiles were the only thing that could hold back the advancing tanks and secure that road. It was their only chance.
They paid the price. They gave him everything. But the deal was broken.
Gillot took the valuables, stored them safely in a deposit box in Rijeka, and had the merchandise shipped from Gdansk in Poland. But before that shipment could arrive, the world of intelligence intervened.
This is a massive turning point. A man named Benji Arbuthnot, a high-level officer from the Secret Intelligence Service.
An active spy at this point, not retired.
Right. He advised Gillot to cancel the deal. We're not given the specific intelligence motive, but the effect on Vukovar was immediate. and catastrophic.
It was a betrayal sanctioned at a high, covert level. The arms never came, and the consequences were paid for, in blood, on the cornfield road.
What happened?
The teacher, Zoran, and 3 other men, including Tomislav's son, went out at dusk to receive the arms shipment. They waited all night. At dawn, they were caught and brutally butchered.
So the community didn't just lose their money. They lost their hope, and they lost their young men.
And the source makes it clear. In their eyes, Gillot had betrayed us and stole from us.
That betrayal is then allowed to just fester for almost 2 decades. It's buried literally beneath the soil of a forgotten conflict. The link to Gillot is only reestablished when the past surfaces.
It's during mine clearance operations. A farmer named Peter is plowing the ground with his tractor after a handler and his dog have cleared the area. The plow hits something, and he uncovers a corpse, an arm thrust up out of the ground.
And the call goes out to forensic experts.
The man who answers that call is an American expert, a forensic pathologist from UC Santa Barbara named William Anders. He arrives to excavate the site, and he's determined to gather evidence to convict those responsible for war crimes.
And it's Anders who finds the direct link.
It's an extraordinary piece of forensic evidence. He's working on the best-preserved corpse, Tomislav's son, and he finds this small, discolored, tightly folded piece of paper, about the size of a Marlboro Light packet, preserved in the dead man's clothing.
And on it,
He opens it, and there's the name, Gillot. This one slip of paper, 20 years old, connects the arms dealer in his cushy home in Dorset directly to the dead on the cornfield road.
and Anders, believing he's serving justice, he shops Gillot's name to the authorities.
He does, and in doing so, he unwittingly ignites the contract killing.
So the community now has proof. They have a name. How do they go from that abstract rage to concrete vengeance?
They turn to an intermediary, a man named Joseph. He's a reformed white-collar criminal, a Catholic Croat who'd fled during the war but had built up this extensive network within Balkan organized crime. He knew people,
Even high-level people.
very high level, including a man on Europol's 50 Most Wanted list. He had the contacts and the anonymity they needed.
And the money. Where did that come from?
It came from an intensely emotional place. The villagers pooled what they had left. Veteran pensions, mostly. This is sacrifice all over again. Led by a man named Leiden, they raised 20,000 euros.
20,000 euros. How was that broken down?
It was the fuel for a very complex chain of retribution. 10,000 euros for the assassin himself, the other 10,000 for the whole chain of intermediaries stretching across London, Hamburg, Poland, Greece, Zagreb.
And the villagers' mandate, driven by the women like Maria and the widow, was simple.
We want him dead.
Okay, let's talk about the man they hired for the job. Robbie Cairns, 25 years old, a professional killer from Rotherhithe. The sources depict him as very methodical.
He's a predator. He's known for quality, single-shot head hits. He approaches his targets not with brute force, but with calculation. The source says he moves like a feral cat stalking a rat. He values the time spent learning the target's movements, their style.
He observed Gillot's routine on Portland.
Yes, very solid, very predictable. Out of the house, to the newsagent, to the cafe, then home, he planned for a specific, perfect headshot.
And this professionalism seems to be driven by a very personal failure, his father's.
His father, Jerry Cairns, is serving 14 years in prison because he was, and this is a quote, dumb enough to spit DNA evidence at a crime scene. That failure is Robbie's constant cautionary tale. He's driven by money, sure, but mostly by this need for respect and the absolute terror of making a stupid mistake like his dad.
But this hyper-professional killer has a strange, almost suburban personal life.
He does. He keeps his girlfriend, Barbie, a secret. She's 9 years older than him and works in the fragrances section of a West End department store.
And he keeps her secret from his family.
He has to. His family in Rotherhithe is notorious, and chillingly, they are frightened of the young'un. They know Robbie is operating at a level of ruthlessness that even intimidates them.
He has a team, though, his brother and sister.
Vern, his brother, is the driver, and his younger sister, Leanne, she's his emotional escape valve. She's the only one who can lift him out of his dark moods.
Let's talk about the kit, the tools of the trade they brought for the hit on Gillot.
Their arsenal was specific, and it was optimized for untraceable close-quarters killing. They used a converted Baikal IZH-79 pistol.
What's the significance of that?
Well, it was originally a tear gas gun made in Lithuania. It was converted to fire real ammunition, which makes it virtually impossible to trace back to any legitimate arms sale. A ghost gun, basically.
And the ammunition was specialized, too. Soft nose or dum-dum bullets.
Designed for one thing, maximum damage, ensuring the target goes down immediately and stays down. They also had a sawn-off shotgun, balaclavas, but the most professional detail was the lighter fuel
Lighter fuel. What?
to mask gunshot residue traces on the skin, a lesson he definitely learned from his father's DNA mistake.
So Robbie's planning leads him to this one calculated deduction that gives him immense confidence. He calls it the dog theory.
Right. He watches Gillot's movements and he reasons he won't drive out, he'll be walking. Because Gillot has a surprise garden and he doesn't want dog shit all over it.
So that simple domestic detail means Gillot will walk out of the gates presenting a vulnerable, predictable target.
Exactly, in soft clothes, at point-blank range.
The scene is set for a textbook assassination. Gillot, in his creased trousers and flip-flops, walks out. Robbie aims the Bakel, 10 feet away.
The execution begins, and it fails instantly. Pure, unadulterated instinct. The first shot fires, but Gillot, maybe from years of working in high-risk zones, just ducks. A primal, reflexive movement. The bullet misses his head.
And this is where the whole professional plan just completely devolves into high farce. Robbie prepares for the second shot, the follow-up, but he gets distracted.
By the most bizarre twist of fate you can imagine. 2 wasps?
2 what?
It's unbelievable. A perfectly planned contract killing, years in the making, and it is derailed by insect interference. One wasp flies right up his nostril, the other lands near his eye. His concentration is completely broken at the most critical moment possible.
And while the professional killer is wrestling with insects, Harvey Gillot, half down on one knee, fights back with the only weapon he has.
His footwear. He throws his flip-flop, and it hits Robbie Cairns.
The humiliation of it all, being hit by a piece of beach footwear while struggling with wasps, must have been.
It breaks his professional nerve completely. It just compounds the distraction. He doesn't recover. He flees the scene immediately. The contract is a failure. His sister Leanne later summarizes it to Vern with devastating simplicity. It didn't happen.
The consequences of this spectacular failure are immediate and devastating. He goes back to London, defeated.
And he finds his girlfriend, Barbie, sitting on the settee holding the pistol. She's found the gun. She can smell the petrol from the lighter fluid. She confronts him, threatens to go to the police.
And Robbie, having lost all professional control, humiliated by the flip-flop and the wasps.
He reverts to just uncontrolled, brutal violence. He manually strangles her in their flat.
And that's a crucial consequence. The man who valued precision and respect has descended into a desperate, uncontrolled murderer.
It matters hugely to the official response. Intelligence later identifies him as wanted for murder, which confirms to law enforcement that the threat against Gillot isn't just professional anymore. It's coming from a highly unstable, desperate killer.
The failed hit on Portland immediately kicks off an official crisis. Gillot is a top 10 target for customs, but now he's also the high-profile victim of an attempted murder.
And the police response is handled by SCD-7 at Scotland Yard. It's important to clarify the players here because their interaction shows the systemic failure. SCD-7 is the Serious Crime Directorate handling the overall investigation.
And you have HMRC's Alpha Team, represented by Penny Lang. Their focus is purely financial, right?
Exactly. Sanctions busting, tax evasion. And then you have SCD-10, which is surveillance, and CO-19, the Firearms Command.
The Armed Response Units.
Right. And the Gold Group meeting, chaired by Chief Superintendent Phoebe Birmingham, quickly gets to the dilemma. The man we want to prosecute is now the man we must protect.
But the decision they come to is definitive. Protection refused.
It is. SCD-10 and CO-19 conclude that providing 247 armed protection in remote Dorset is simply irresponsible. It's impossible given their resources and the location. It's outside the Met's normal jurisdiction. So, Gillot is officially on his own.
It's a classic bureaucratic failure, isn't it? The state machinery, despite him being a top target, just fails to provide physical security.
The local Dorset police don't have the resources, and the Met is unwilling to extend their heavy resources that far out of London.
So Detective Sergeant Mark Roscoe is the unlucky officer who has to deliver this news to Gillot.
And he visibly struggles with Gillot's arrogance, his rudeness, but he has to stick to the script. He offers Gillot a safe house in London.
Which Gillot, of course, declines.
Naturally. He insists on keeping his possessions, his house, his dog, that obsession with his comfortable life we talked about. But it's Roscoe's report filing that shows the true nature of the bureaucracy here.
He has to file a report that is, what, spare of color, emotion, and detail. Why is that so critical?
It's entirely self-protective. Roscoe needs to prove due diligence. If the assassination succeeds, the police need to shield themselves from being made a scapegoat. The report isn't about solving the crime. It's about insulating the department from political fallout.
At the same time, Benji Arbuthnot, the intelligence officer who started this all 2 decades ago, is watching from the wings. Gillot frantically calls him for help.
And Arbuthnot, who is now retired and spending his time burning boxes of classified papers, declines any direct involvement. He sees the whole contract as pure blowback.
The inevitable, long-delayed consequence of a past action.
An action for which he shares responsibility. He admits he's the universal idiot in this scenario, but he does give Gillot some advice.
He tells him to go to Vukovar, to confront the issue. He says, you don't have a rucksack of options.
But Arbuthnot is drawn in by the drama. He decides to travel to Vukovar himself purely as a voyeur. He finds the whole thing compelling. He says, I'm banking on a fine show. He's expecting this convergence of all the key players, what he later calls the Vulture Club.
And the drama is also attracting others. Megs Behan, the anti-arms trade campaigner.
Right, she's frustrated. Her carefully researched press release on the UK being the 4th largest arms exporter was completely ignored by the media.
So she switches tactics, from factual lobbying to direct confrontation.
She drives to Portland, stages a one-woman protest outside Gillot's home with a bullhorn shouting, "Dealer in death!"
And Gillot's reaction to this passionate moral challenge.
Pure, icy contempt. After surviving 2 bullets and a wasp attack, he tells Detective Roscoe that Megs Behan is less important to me than the wasp.
Wow. That tells you everything about his psychology.
He recognizes the physical threat from the hitman, but he just completely dismisses the moral threat from the activist.
The other major player converging on this is Penny Lang, the ambitious HMRC investigator. She doesn't see a victim.
No, she sees the final piece of evidence she needs. Lang is desperate for a scalp. A successful prosecution of Gillot for sanctions busting during the 1991 embargo to save her team's budget from cuts. She travels to the region intending to turn over the embers of that village and find the paper trail that will skewer Harvey Gillot.
She is completely focused on the financial crime and just ignoring the danger she's walking into.
Totally.
So Gillot, rejecting the police safe house, follows Arbuthnot's cynical advice. He decides the only way out is to confront his fate in Vukovar.
And he begins this eccentric route sleeper train to Paris, then onward, maintaining his basic security procedures. But his mindset on this journey is fascinating. He's not repentant at all.
No, he's almost boastful.
He's testing the limits of his profession. He travels wearing the same lavender blue shirt that was holed by Robbie Cairns' bullets, but he wears it over a bulletproof vest he's testing for a future deal.
He's using his near-death experience as product testing.
Literally. He even composes a text message to a contact about the vest. BPV Fantastic Brill have tested and no angst. Works. There is zero remorse here. Only professional gain.
Meanwhile, the Vulture Club is gathered in Vukovar. It's an extraordinary confluence of people.
You've got the forensic pathologist, Anders, the former spy, Arbuthnot, the investigator, Lang, the detective, Roscoe, and the activist, Behan. All of them watching, waiting.
And back in the village, the trap is set.
Mladen and the others are armed with recovered siege weapons. An RPG-7, a Dragunov sniper rifle, Zastava pistols. They are lining the path of the cornfield road.
And Joseph, the intermediary, is fulfilling his role. He uses his underworld contacts to relay Gillot's precise itinerary, making sure Robbie Cairns is waiting at the rendezvous point, a wooden cross.
Robbie has traveled from Germany, cold and disoriented after another failed hit in Munich. He's desperate.
So Gillot begins his walk, unshaven, in soft trainers, carrying just a plastic bag.
He confronts the first group, Maria and the widow, who block his path. And this is the moment they expect an argument, an apology. Gillot offers none of it.
What's his strategy?
His genius is to offer no defense. He simply gives an apologetic smile and steps past them. If he'd stopped, if he'd argued, they would have dragged him down. He gets hit by the widow's stick and Maria's stone, but he stays upright. He keeps walking.
Arbuthnot the voyeur tries one last, cynical intervention. He presses Mladen with whiskey and questions, suggesting maybe the missiles would never have reached the village anyway.
But Mladen resists. The geopolitical analysis is irrelevant now. 4 men died. They've suffered for 20 years. Mladen says flatly, the cry is for blood. The vengeance plot can't be reasoned away.
And then the assassin appears. Robbie Cairns emerges from the corn, locks his aim on Greel, preparing for the double tap he failed to deliver on Portland.
At that exact moment, Detective Sergeant Mark Roscoe, who has been dutifully tracking Greel despite despising him, rushes in. He's unarmed, but he throws himself forward to protect his charge, shouting, "You've got me!" An act of pure, reflexive police duty.
But the climax is delivered by the most unexpected player.
Benji Arbuthnot. Emerging from the corn, he uses his single-shot explosive pen. This is a highly specialized tactical weapon developed for use against suicide bombers. A final piece of kit Arbuthnot kept from his old life.
And he aims with clinical precision.
For the mastoid process, the bone directly behind Robbie's ear. It's a signature kill shot designed to instantly damage the brainstem. He fires. Robbie Cairns is killed instantly.
But even in death, Robbie gets a final shot off.
His finger spasms. He fires one last bullet. Gillot is shot, the slug lodging near his backbone. He's saved by the vest he was testing. Roscoe is pistol-whipped by Cairns' falling body. The vultures disperse.
And Roscoe, protecting the secrecy of the state's involvement, later reports to his superiors that he knows nothing of who shot Cairns. He just suspects the body will be quickly and silently buried in the cornfield.
That's right.
Harvey Gillot survives through this bizarre sequence of failures and interventions. The wasps, the flip-flop, a detective's selfless act of duty, and a retired spy's explosive pen. So what becomes of the unrepentant arms dealer?
Immediate escape and restoration. He's collected by a specialized hospital jet, funded by his fellow arms dealers, a clear sign of their mutual support network, and flown to Switzerland for high-level treatment.
And he wastes no time getting back to work.
None at all. Within days, he's brokering deals for encrypted comms equipment to Oman, arranging small arms transfers from China for Baghdad. His resilience is absolute. His lack of remorse is confirmed. The whole thing was just a useful field test for him.
But while he survives professionally, his personal life is over.
Irrevocably. Josie Gillot delivers the final judgment. She takes off her ring, a specific one she got after a deal in Jakarta, and she drops it into their empty safe. She has utterly scrubbed him out of her life. She is finished.
So let's turn to Arbuthnot's assessment of the Vulture Club, the professionals who gathered to watch. He offers a brutal, clinical take on their fates.
It's a real insight into the cost of getting emotionally involved in this world. Take Penny Lang, the ambitious HMRC investigator. She lost her professional focus. Her promising career is utterly broken. Arbuthnot notes she's now stuck investigating boring VAT carousel frauds in Halifax. A huge time loser, he calls her.
And William Anders, the forensic pathologist whose discovery started the whole thing.
He's professionally humiliated. His scientific conceit is just gone. He'll avoid returning to Vukovar, using assignments in Rwanda or Congo as an excuse. His emotional desire to shop go breached the clinical distance his job requires, and he paid for it.
Perhaps the most heartbreaking assessment is of Megs Behan, the ferocious anti-arms activist.
She is utterly destroyed by the experience. Arbuthnot notes chillingly that Gillot captivated her. She encountered the very definition of the evil she was fighting, and the sheer charisma of the monster just broke her idealism.
What does she do?
She leaves her sinking NGO. She now works in human rights litigation for men like Midlands Asians. Arbuthnot calls her a duck in a dried-out pond. Her whole life's focus was shattered.
So the dealer lives. The professionals are broken. But the community that sought vengeance, did they achieve any measure of closure?
They did, though not in the blood they demanded. Closure arrives via Megs Behan. Following Arbuthnot's instructions, she leaves Gillot's plastic bag at the post outside the church.
And inside.
Josie's jewelry, cash, and the original property deeds from the 1991 betrayal. They didn't get the missiles, they didn't get the blood, but they got financial restitution for the original theft.
There's a final tragic detail about one villager, Andrea, who had attempted suicide after the siege.
He now expresses a will to live, but only long enough to hear that Gillot was killed, a wish that remains permanently unfulfilled. The village gets a partial financial victory, but the man responsible for their pain remains untouched, flying off to broker more deals.
So we've covered this journey from historical betrayal to a high-stakes contract, this strange confluence of law, intelligence, and activism, and the bizarre series of accidents, wasps, flip-flops, and a pen that allowed the dealer to survive and the hitman to die.
And you see how the state machinery of the UK, the police, customs, surveillance, it explicitly failed. They couldn't stop Gillot, and they ultimately declined to protect him from the consequences of his actions.
They were structurally unable or just unwilling to intervene.
But it was a retired spy, Benji Arbuthnot, acting entirely outside his official remit, driven by this cynical sense of duty and curiosity, who killed the assassin and ensured Gillot's survival.
This story leaves us with a powerful question for you to consider. Does this event prove that in the world of high-stakes international crime, a world where bureaucracy and resources limit official state power, that personal radical intervention,
often undertaken by the same shadowy figures who perpetuate the system, is often the only way to achieve any change or even a semblance of justice?
Until the next deep dive, be well informed.
And stay curious.